You've been told your whole life to be a great man, to be kind, loyal, respectful, to always put her first, to love selflessly, to prove your worth by how well you treat her. But what if I told you this idea, this script of the good man, is not only outdated, it's a trap? Stoic philosophy, especially the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, teaches us to see the world not as we wish it were, but as it is. And here's a truth most men aren't ready to face. Many women don't want a great man. They want a useful man. They want a challenge, not a servant, a presence, not a pleaser. It's not about hate. It's not about bitterness. It's about waking up from the illusion and learning to stand in your power without asking for permission. In this video, we're going to break down 7 uncomfortable Stoic truths that reveal why so many men lose themselves trying to become what they think women want, and how to stop playing a role and start living with strength, clarity, and freedom. This isn't for the weak-hearted. It's for the man who's ready to open his eyes. Are you ready? Let's begin. Number 1. Women are attracted to challenge, not certainty. From a Stoic perspective, certainty is for the self, not for external validation. But most men misunderstand this. They believe that by being endlessly available, reassuring, and predictable, they'll earn a woman's loyalty. Yet ironically, this approach often has the opposite effect. Why? Because many women, consciously or not, are drawn to a man who doesn't need to be chosen, a man who is a challenge, not a constant. It's not about playing games or withholding affection. It's about being deeply rooted in yourself, so your presence becomes earned, not expected. When you make yourself too predictable, too emotionally accessible too quickly, you rob the connection of tension. And tension is the spark behind desire. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Not a perfect one, a solid one. One who doesn't need to convince. A challenge is a man with a life, a mission, boundaries, standards. He doesn't chase approval, and that's what makes him magnetic. The truth is, certainty without mystery feels safe, but it rarely inspires passion. Be clear in your intentions, but never abandon your edge. Number 2. Emotional dependency is mistaken for love. One of the most dangerous illusions many men fall into is confusing emotional dependency with genuine love. It feels deep, it feels consuming, it feels like devotion. But in truth, it's fear. Fear of being alone, of being unloved, of being without identity outside of a relationship. Stoicism teaches us that love must come from strength, not weakness. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Yet when your thoughts revolve entirely around her moods, her validation, her attention, your happiness becomes hostage to someone else's behavior. This is not love, it's addiction dressed in romance. You say you're loyal, that you'd do anything for her, but is it truly about her, or about what she represents for your self-worth? Too many men give and give, thinking that selflessness is nobility, but often it's silent desperation, an attempt to earn love by disappearing into someone else. This kind of love is unstable, because when she pulls away, you collapse. When she doesn't respond, you spiral. That's not love failing, it's your dependency unraveling. True love, grounded in Stoic clarity, is interdependent, not dependent. It says, I choose you, but I do not need you to be whole. When you understand this, you stop giving out of fear and start connecting from strength. Number 3. Many women don't want a great man. They want a useful one. Modern men are taught to strive to become great, powerful, wise, noble, accomplished. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Many women, consciously or not, don't seek greatness in a man. They seek usefulness. Not usefulness in the heroic sense, but in how well you serve their needs, their comfort, their emotional regulation, their lifestyle goals. The great man might be stoic, composed, driven, but the useful man adapts, bends, and orbits her preferences. And in many cases, it's the useful man she chooses, not the man who holds firm to his own inner standard. This doesn't mean women are manipulative. It means they are pragmatic. From an evolutionary and social perspective, many women have learned that survival, emotional or material, often depends on how well a man aligns with their script. You may think being morally upright, highly intelligent, or deeply loyal makes you enough. But if those qualities aren't useful in her world, they can be overlooked. This is not cynicism, it's reality. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." But the Stoic man must also recognize that being good in his own eyes does not guarantee being wanted in hers. So here's the harsh Stoic insight. If your greatness isn't meeting her needs, emotionally, socially, or practically, it may not be recognized at all. This is not a reason to bend yourself to fit. It's a reason to remain grounded in your values, and to stop expecting admiration simply because you've cultivated inner depth. Only when you stop performing usefulness and start living with clarity will you attract someone who sees your value as it is, not just as it serves them. Number 4, vulnerability is currency, and it can be used against you. In today's culture, men are told that vulnerability is strength, that opening up, expressing emotions, and showing your wounds makes you more human, more lovable, more in touch. And while that may sound noble, the Stoic lens offers a hard truth. Vulnerability, like any form of currency, can be spent wisely or weaponized. When you expose your inner world too soon or too freely, you may believe you're building connection. But in reality, you may be handing over emotional leverage. Not every person who receives your truth will honor it. Some will store it, categorize it, and use it as quiet power, consciously or unconsciously. Why? Because power dynamics exist even in the most intimate spaces. And in the absence of strong boundaries, vulnerability can become a map, a guide showing exactly where to press, how to manipulate, or how to control. What was once an honest confession becomes ammunition in future tension. This isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Don't waste time worrying about what others say or do. Control your own mind. That is your domain." The Stoic man does not hide his emotions, but he doesn't bleed them out either. He knows that self-mastery is not the absence of feeling, but the refusal to be ruled by it, or to be exposed without discernment. The modern world pushes men to be emotionally open without teaching them when, where, and with whom it's truly safe to be. And that's why so many men confuse vulnerability with strength, when in fact, it is only strong when wielded with control. True vulnerability is earned, not demanded. It should flow from clarity, not desperation. And if you offer it as proof of worthiness, you're no longer being authentic. You're negotiating approval. The Stoic path is not about shutting down. It's about being deliberate with your words, your emotions, your openness. Because when vulnerability becomes currency, it also becomes risk. And a man who understands this doesn't harden. He simply becomes wise. Number 5, a man who seeks to be chosen has already surrendered power. In a world obsessed with validation, Many men unknowingly enter relationships not as equals, but as applicants, hoping to be picked, accepted, approved. They shapeshift, accommodate, overgive, and suppress parts of themselves to fit into a role they believe will make them lovable. But the Stoic truth is sharp. The moment you place your value in someone else's hands, you've already surrendered your power. When a man seeks to be chosen, he is no longer leading his life. He's waiting to be granted access to someone else's. This mindset stems from insecurity masked as romance. You're not showing up as a grounded individual. You're presenting a version of yourself that you think will be most palatable, most pleasing, most safe to accept. But love built on submission is not love. It's dependency. And the danger lies not just in the external relationship, but in the internal erosion of self-respect. Over time, a man who constantly performs for approval forgets what he stands for. He doesn't set standards. He meets expectations. He doesn't build boundaries. He builds strategies to avoid rejection. Marcus Aurelius warned, "The approval of the crowd is worthless." That includes relationships. Stoicism teaches you to center yourself, not around someone else's opinion, but around your principles. A man who lives by values doesn't beg to be picked. He decides who and what aligns with his path. Ask yourself, are you living in a way that demands respect, or are you hoping to be liked? Are you choosing, or just hoping to be chosen? Because when you surrender your power for affection, you don't win love. You lose yourself. And that's a price too high for any relationship. Number 6. The idea of a good man is often a social script, not a truth. Society loves the concept of a good man. He's polite, accommodating, emotionally available on cue, never threatening, and always giving. But let's be brutally honest. Much of what's praised as being a good man is less about virtue and more about compliance. It's a social script designed to tame a man's natural edge and turn him into something non-disruptive, easy to manage, easy to predict. This version of goodness isn't rooted in inner strength or character. It's rooted in pleasing others, particularly in romantic dynamics. You're not taught to be grounded or principled. You're taught to be safe. And while that might earn you approval, it rarely earns you respect. Many men who follow this script feel confused when their kindness is met with indifference or even rejection. Why? Because true attraction isn't about how agreeable you are. It's about how centered, solid, and unapologetically real you are. Stoicism doesn't teach you to be good in the way society defines it. It teaches you to be virtuous, to act with wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. Not to win praise, but because it's right. That's a very different kind of man. The good man script says, be nice, sacrifice your needs, be endlessly available. The Stoic man says, be just, speak the truth, set boundaries, and walk away if necessary. One is rooted in fear of rejection. The other is rooted in clarity and strength. Here's the truth. A man who's deeply good doesn't have to prove it. He embodies it. And ironically, the more he stops chasing the label of a good man, the more he becomes something even rarer, a real man. Number 7. If you have to prove you're a good man, you're already losing. The moment you feel the need to prove that you're a good man, you've already stepped out of your center and into someone else's judgment. And here's the hard truth. Validation seeking is weakness in disguise. It signals that your sense of worth is not rooted in who you are, but in how someone reacts to you. Think about it. A tree doesn't try to prove it's strong. It simply stands tall. A lion doesn't convince others it's dangerous. It just is. But modern men, especially in romantic dynamics, are often conditioned to demonstrate goodness like a product being sold. Look how kind I am, how respectful, how selfless. The unspoken message is, please see my worth. But here's what many men miss. When your goodness becomes a performance, it stops being authentic. It becomes manipulation, not necessarily out of malice, but out of fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of not being enough. So you overcompensate. You explain. You plead. And in doing so, you lose power. You become a character in someone else's narrative, rather than the author of your own. From a Stoic lens, virtue is lived, not advertised. Marcus Aurelius never told us to prove our character. He told us to embody it. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one, he wrote. That's the Stoic way. Silent strength, quiet integrity, firm boundaries. When a man knows his value, he doesn't chase validation. He observes reactions. He doesn't need to say, I'm a good man. His presence says it for him. So if you catch yourself trying to convince someone of your worth, pause. Step back. Ask yourself, am I acting from strength or from fear? Because love, respect, and connection that are built on fear will always collapse. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to be aligned with truth, with clarity, with virtue, and that alone makes you unshakable. Conclusion: the truth is uncomfortable, but liberation always begins with discomfort. As a man, you've likely been told that love means giving, proving, surrendering. That being a good man means being agreeable, endlessly available, and sacrificing for approval. But what if that story is broken? What if, instead of elevating you, it's quietly eroding your identity? The Stoics didn't chase illusions. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." The truth is that love built on emotional dependency is not strength, it's survival. And men who constantly seek to be chosen forget that they too have the power to choose. Many women don't consciously seek to manipulate, but in a society where emotional leverage often replaces genuine connection, instincts take over. And in that environment, men who mistake submission for nobility will always suffer. So what's the alternative? Clarity, inner stillness, radical self-respect. You don't need to become colder, you need to become clearer. You don't need to fight her power, you need to reclaim yours. When you stop chasing the myth of what a woman wants and start embodying the truth of who you are, the game changes. You no longer play roles. You live with purpose. Because in the end, Stoicism isn't about control. It's about mastering yourself. And when you do, you stop asking for love and start commanding respect, silently, powerfully, unshakably. If this spoke to you, share it. Not for attention, but to awaken another man who's ready to stop performing and start living.